moving into the main topic, Herwig, how about you kick it off? Let's talk a little bit about litigation finance with security tokens.
Litigation finance. How many of you have heard that term before? We're talking about, as we so aptly put it, bankrolling lawsuits, right? So this is the idea, the concept that you need to actually finance cases. Lawsuits need money in order to get done. And at the end of the lawsuit, there is a potential result, a failure where, of course, there is no gains. But on the other hand, there is a successful claim. There could be a huge reward to pay out to specifically, of course, the plaintiff as well as the investors in this case. So this is actually an investment contract essentially to finance a lawsuit in order to keep going. I mean, Kyle, if you think about it, a lawsuit takes a lot of expenses. You've got your attorneys, of course, especially good ones. They don't charge just doing it on commission. They have a team that helps them and they need to operate. But then you've got a lot of other hidden costs that you might not have thought about. You've got, of course, discovery, where you're tracking down people and you're hosting them and you want to do interviews with them. That all time costs money, of course. You've got, of course, your expert witnesses, which charge, good fees in order to go ahead and provide and help you with testaments. Travels and operational budget, trial fees if you get to it. There's all this other stuff that a trial or a case, in this case a lawsuit, might need in order from a financing perspective. So it is a little bit like a business. It is a little bit like an investment opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially considering the more money you can dedicate, the more hands on deck, the more likely you actually may win that case. So
potentially the bigger the payout.
And the bigger the payout. So essentially what we see is there's an estimated 50 to 100% return for the existing market. So there's actually an existing market of private investors that do fund these deals. An estimated 40 funders that have put nearly $10 billion into financing litigations, and $2.5 billion, in fact, in just the last 12 months alone. So this industry is growing because of, as I mentioned, a 50 to 100% potential return on these investments year over year. That's absolutely astronomical, and investors around the world would want to get access to that. That means that there's not enough capital in this opportunity for where the returns are justifying. So this is a fascinating opportunity.
Absolutely. Investors around the world, you say, Kyle? Well, this sounds like a security token opportunity to me. In fact, if you've been watching John's segment, you may have heard of Lidi Finance. So they are actually a blockchain company out of Switzerland, enabling the technology for investors to be able to go ahead and get security tokens that represent litigation finance. So that's a super cool opportunity. It means you have a security token today, and actually they're doing a lot. You can stake it. You can go ahead and, of course, trade it. I mean, they're enabling a host of new opportunities for this incredibly new asset class.
So let's talk about some of the benefits around potentially tokenizing what this deal looks like. So first off, the idea that you could take multiple different legal claims and put them into one asset that diversifies the risk of any one of those legal cases, right? Because as you mentioned, any one legal case could just fail and you lose all of your money, and that just sometimes happens. That's the nature of lawsuits. So if you could put more than just one suit into a specific asset investors could get access to, that allows them to diversify that risk over a basket or set of these different litigation contracts, which is what they end up becoming, which allows you to diversify that risk as well as reducing the cost because of the fact that you're kind of combining it across multiple deals. So those are two really great examples.
Absolutely. So that's what we call a litigation finance fund, right? This idea to get exposure to a number of different cases. So you have to make your decision. Do you want to find somebody who knows what they're doing and is picking specific cases to back, or do you find one big meaty case to get behind? And that's the interesting thing about, I think, this asset class is it's one that you can kind of invest with your heart a little bit. It's, you can actually go in some cases and see which specific cases. There are other platforms out there like LexShares and other funds and things like that kind of have a narrative or a thesis about what they're backing. In some cases, opportunity to help the little guy, right? It's the fact that they don't have the finances in place to pursue their lawsuit, but with your help, they actually might be able to win their case. So I think this does offer an interesting way for people to invest in, diversifying their portfolio in the first place.
Yeah, I think I've seen, you see GoFundMes sometimes of people trying to raise for legal coverage, maybe in a medical malpractice case or something along those lines. And now you actually are incentivizing those investors to actually give you even more than just kind of out of the goodness of their heart. Obviously, you like to get people that are investing in the right causes, but giving those people some kind of economic incentive also allows more capital to flow into the campaign and makes it maybe even more realistic that that lawsuit could get funded and the resources that are there are prepared properly.
And last but not least, Kyle, I do think it's worth mentioning that there are sizable returns. Some of these funds have incredible track records, and that's makes sense. Some of these cases yields tens of millions, if not more, in returns for the plaintiff and the investors ultimately. So the ROI and the alpha is there.
I think the final thing that I'm also, I think, pretty excited about in this case is that with law firms, I believe that no non-lawyer actually can own shares in a law firm. It's one of those weird little nuances that I think keeps it kind of inside the family there. So this is one of those opportunities to get economic exposure into the legal industry from a financial perspective that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get through equity in a law firm or something like that, which is another cool opportunity that security tokens provide in terms of bringing new opportunities to the table.
Absolutely love it, Kyle. I think that about covers it for litigation finance with security tokens there. If you enjoyed that, please check out the rest of the show in the past. We do the show every week on Mondays. And you can catch up a whole lot more of industry news on stomarket.com, as well as on our blog, as well as our What's Drippin' newsletter, which you can check all of that out again at stomarket.com.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next week.
Happy tokenizing.